Доброго дня. Не чую.
Good afternoon. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for having an interest to this more of a technical briefing. I'm not going to have a large presentation. I will show a number of the slides about the auction. So, a number of things that I wanted to mention. We'll have a discussion about the auctions or the tenders, how they're taking place, what is our relations with Укренерgo and the participants of the tender and the later on winners of the tender. How do we cooperate as or in the course of your construction, and then how are we going to cooperate successfully in further? So we as a Укренерго, we are procuring services. We start with the reserve of the frequency support. So we procure 100 megawatts or 99 megawatts, and this is very important parameter. Let me explain why. Because we've mentioned the green tariff today, and it did not justify all the expectations behind it. The main reason is that the amount of electricity over that the state guaranteed to procure over the green tariff was kind of unlimited, while the tariff was limited for certain reasons. At the auxiliary services market, the scope of the capacities of the electricity that we were procuring, it's limited. And this somehow guarantees the payment. So, talking about the reserve, the frequency support reserve, it's 99 megawatts. Though we do have a clicker, but unfortunately it's not working. So, the scope of 99 megawatts, the final price is 1,330 hryvnia. So later on, in accordance to the agreements that we have previously concluded, it will be recalculated based on the euro exchange rate, and later on it will provide for an adequate cash flow for the future communications of yours with the bank that will allow to take into account the inflation or any risks related to the currency exchange rate. So on the 15th of August, we will have this auction, and tomorrow is the final day for the participation in this auction. And you'll be able to provide this guaranteed contribution in the hryvnia equivalent, and you can put it on your own escrow account. Or so once again, tomorrow is the final day. Later on, after today, you won't be able to participate in the auction on frequency support reserve. And one more auction is going to take place on the 22nd of August, and the final time for the transfer of the guaranteed contribution is 7 days before that. As for the frequency support reserve, it's at the very fast reserve, and it's just a couple of seconds, and it has to be maintained for a period of up to 15 minutes. So this reserve has to maintain the capacity that is installed as part of your auction for a period of at least 15 minutes. What does that mean? It means that, if I'm not mistaken, like no later than after 2 minutes, the capacity have to be generated, which is won on the auction, and then this capacity has to be maintained for a period of not less than 15 minutes. What's important is that all of this electricity that will be generated or that will be stopped generating, or in case of batteries, all of that will be produced out of these batteries and will be inputted into the batteries. This would not be a balance. That won't be a balancing. That would be a non-balance energy. So for those who understand this, okay, let me explain the balance energy. This is the energy provided by the dispatching center. Well, that is provided for the generation or for the outflow from the battery. So the frequency support reserve, it does not provide for any manual commands, and it's going to be variating or over zero. In order to increase the amount of money, so there will be a payment from both sides, either from Укренерго or from you, depending the result of the work. This amount will be made in the form of a saldo. So everything that is outputted from the battery, we are paying. Everything that is inputted, you're paying. So only the saldo is subject to the payment. So so what's important to understand that in the end of the day, the price of all these operations, it will have no effect, because what is important is the total price. And there's many questions whether we need to pay the tariff for the dispatch, for the distribution, but still, this is all regulated. So and you'll be paying for this service only for the total amount. So not the amount that is outputted from the battery, but the total amount. Now, what's important to mention about the frequency support reserve, so we've historically provided for a significant amount of these services, and most of that was provided by the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And this is why we currently do have a deficit. So this service is very much needed. And there is a question like, how do you leave today if you do have a deficit? And today we kind of violate the European rules on the sufficiency of the reserve because of the combat operations, because of the martial law in Ukraine. Like, they understand us, but that cannot, exist for like a lot of time. That is why, in accordance to our commitments and obligations, it's important for us to have the frequency support reserve, and that kind of ensures that we have a higher quality of the electricity. So let me kind of at first mention about two reserves, and later on I'll be able to answer of the colleagues, and I'll introduce my colleagues, so we'll be able to respond to your questions. Now, talking about the other type of reserve, we're talking about 579 megawatts for upload. And what does that mean? That's an automatic reserve to restore the frequency. That means that in any hour that you win the auction, we'll be paying the amount that was the winning amount for the bid or for the tender. That means that the capacity that you'll present for the auction, and for example, if your station is up to 15 megawatt, then, for example, you've sold 20 megawatts for the auction, it means that you can go to the other segments of the market for the 30 megawatts. So you cannot sell like 20 megawatts for the day-ahead market or the other markets. You have to keep that for the dispatching center, and if there will be a need for the energy system, you would need to start generating, or in the case of batteries, start outputting the electricity energy. As for the specifications, so they would need to be up to support the FSR within 15 minutes to the capacity provided into the auction and maintain that for a period of 1 hour. This electricity will be procured not in the case of the frequency supporting range, but at the price of the balancing energy based on the price for that specific hour. So the exact figure, okay, so that is already an air alert in Kiev. So I guess someone has to stop us. Okay, so in accordance to the rules, we will have to go to the downstairs to the shelter, and we continue the interpretation over there.
Service. So the electricity is generated at the station. Maria, shall we do the final here? So the proposal is also to do the final presentation here as well. So the service as such. It provides the transmission of the energy and the payment under the price which is at this hour with the margin. What does this mean, essentially? That it's only upon your discretion to choose hours of the day when, for 5 years, you guarantee to us that you will output certain capacity, well, I mean the electric energy of certain wattage, for 5 years. If we talk about the synchronized reserve, this means that for the frequency containment reserve is also 1,339. Well, here the limit is 939. This is the price cap, the synchronized reserve. This means that your electric facility can deload or take the load on any hour, well, which you win in the auction for 5 years. For example, you have a gas turbine generator, and on the head market, on the bilateral market, for example, you sell something. Like, for example, you have the 50 megawatt installation and you sell 25. If the technical capacity to deload it to 0 in 15 minutes, or to get it loaded to 50, then you go to the synchronized reserve in the volume of 25 megawatts in any time of the hour. If we talk about the batteries, the story is the same. You have to be ready in 15 minutes to either output from the battery the full capacity or to take the electric energy into the battery. There's no guarantee, and almost there's no correlation to the consumption schedule in the country. I mean, the energy system might need reserve any time. Usually it's in peak times. Of course, then we need more generation, but somehow this frequency containment reserve or like frequency restoration reserve can work any direction regardless of the general schedules. In brief, this is about the services which we purchase. I will now ask the colleagues to show the conditions of the auctions on the screen and to go into details on every item, what they mean there and what is behind these items. Let us open the file, the additional file with the tables. Can they please open the file? So, these are the conditions for the auction for the FCR, Frequency Containment Reserve. Item by item. the auxiliary services for 5 years, starting Q4 2025 until the end of Q3 2030. The auction will be held on 15th of August 2024. The reserve, the frequency contained reserve is symmetrical and it's split into the 4-hour blocks. Why? Well, besides the best practice, for example, the German operator is using these 4-hour blocks, but the 4-hour time interval, considering that according to the technological requirements of this reserve, it's a super fast reserve, and we understand that this is first and foremost the batteries, we would like to ensure these blocks are there. So when you set it, you will select the bid. If you win in 2 of them, then economically, well, we think, of course, it's up to you, and maybe the maths will be different for you, but the price will balance that it guarantees you will recover your capex in about 4 years, on the one hand. On the other hand, technologically, the battery, considering the historic data for the FCR activation, one battery with like 1:1 or 1:25, well, 4 hours it can output, it can provide the service. Talking about the price limitations, we've mentioned them there. 1,339 hryvnias, which is like 30-something euros, I think. Could you please scroll down? Could you please scroll it further down? So, the proposal submission form. All this is on the website. There's nothing new here. It's all available on the website. From the 20th of July, I think it's there, according to the market rules. So I will not be reading out all of them. You'll have to be able to use them. So there's a period for potential appeal. If you're not happy with the results, if you want to appeal, yes, the appeal is possible. And the contact phones of the colleagues, the phone numbers in case there is an emergency need to get response, the phone numbers are there. Below that, I'm not reading it out, but I recommend you look into it. There are additional terms and auxiliary information, which I've explained already, but if you want to know more, if you forgot, then it all is available there in details on this website. Now let's please go down to the AFRR, Automatic Frequency Restoration Reserve. Yeah, I understand now. Okay. The details of the auction. Oh yeah, by the way, on FCR, tomorrow is the last day to pay your guarantee if you are at this auction. On the AFRR, the auction is on August the 22nd. The automatic frequency restoration reserve, it's on load and synchronized. You have to choose which you want to bid. These are the volumes, and as I said, you select the hours. The hours you want to auction. If you want to select 4 hours there, there, and there, it's up to you. You can bid any, but when you win, you'll be obligated to provide this service. If you didn't win on certain hours, it's up to you to use your device. You can sell something on the market, you can generate for your own needs. there are endless possibilities, but on the hours you've won, we as Укренерго would need this capacity to balance the Ukrainian energy grid. And frequent questions I've heard from many of you. So, transferring the rights. If you win, for example, can you transfer the rights to another entity? It's possible upon the mutual consent. The mutual consent of the parties. So, we do not provide for this by default, but yeah, things might happen. Some organizational difficulties, I don't know, you reshuffle your company or something. So in theory, it's possible, but the basic setting is that without our consent, you cannot unilaterally move your rights and obligations to another entity. Secondly, you have to have your equipment certified according to the rules that are part of the transmission system code at least 45 days before the service provision date. In this case, for both services, the service provision date is the beginning of Q4 2025. So, 45 days before that, at least the 15th of August 2025, you have to be certified. There's a myth, and I stress it's a myth, that equipment to be there's a monopoly of Ukrenergo to certify the equipment for the auxiliary services. But the rules are clear. You can order this service from other organizations. Yeah, there should be someone from Укренерго in the committee. Yes, the program of the test must be approved by Укренерго, but other companies can do this. Historically, this never happened, I admit, but I can explain why. Because the number of service providers was quite limited. There were no specific deadlines with negative consequences if you don't do it by a certain date. And why I am focusing on this? If you are now constructing things, well, closer to the 15th, we might get a lot of requests to get you certified, and we might be overloaded with this. That's why I am focusing your attention. Feel free to get this service from other companies. There is a certain procedure to be followed. I will not bother spending time, just as a comment. You can plan this ahead. The more in advance you plan the date of testing and certification, the better it is for everyone, because we all can plan accordingly. What else is important when we talk about the certification? Well, I will not go into details, I think. Probably this is it from me. The last thing I wanted to say... Oh yeah, by the way, this is very important. We have provided that you get 2 weeks per year for repairs or preventive maintenance. We do not outline specifically how you might use this time, like when. We give like 336 hours, I think. This is just 24 by 14. And it's up to you to calculate the date when you want to have the maintenance. You just notify us in advance. Hours, the number of hours, the period, the time interval. We are not paying for this service then, but we are not expecting it from you. There are no penalties in this case. And what else is important from this table? For the investors who want to use their energy accumulators to go into the AFRR, depending on the technology stack you plan, if you have enough capacity using your inverter, and it's up to you to define the capacity and to risk. But you can, for example, say have 4 hours of service, then 2 hours when you're not providing the service, and then you can use them the way you want. You can either recharge the battery or sell more into the market depending on the market situation. It's up to you, it's your risk and your gain. So on my behalf, well, I'll be responding to the questions, but let me introduce my colleagues first. The colleagues are not just sitting there in the panel. Oleksiy is our head of the legal department. Alexander Strymouch is the market operations director. Vitaly, the most popular person in the country, is the main dispatcher in the country. Ivan is helping us with the new connections, and Yuri Karasevich is the director of the auxiliary service department. So he and his team will be running all these operations, the auctions, and his contact information is there. Do you have any questions? Inaudible without the microphone.
Still inaudible due to the fact that the speaker is not using currently the microphone. Okay, let's imagine the situation. We have a power generation or a power unit, and you're saying that the battery should be providing services for a period of 15 minutes or within 15 minutes after the activation. How much time does it have for restoring that capacity? If, well, you can say that we would need to supply that for 30 minutes and we physically won't be able to do that. So how do we provide that within 15 minutes? Well, there is a commitment. Look, you need to provide at least for 15 minutes. So if you start providing the electricity for 8 minutes and then you stop, it's a violation. The reserve is, we're talking about the FCR, it's for an hour. The frequency could be, you know, varying within a minute, and it changes very fast. So the battery should be ready to provide the services for a period of 4 hours, meaning it couldn't be happening that it responds on the 17th minute. No, it should be responding faster. And it could stop providing the electricity if the system status has changed, but it should be ready to provide the electricity over the whole period of 4 hours. And please use the microphone whenever you are asking any questions. Okay. The question about the AFRR. The main question is your predictions. If we are using the gas piston unit, what would be your prediction? How many times per day it could be, you know, run? What's your prediction, forecasts? And if I have installed on my unit, or if I have selected certain hours, how fast can I change those hours? For example, if I will change the operations of my unit, I mean the hours that I provide the services on. I'll start with the second. The answer is no, you cannot change. And first, I have no right to provide my predictions or forecasts on that, but on the website of the Укренерgo, you can find the statistics starting from 2020 on the scope of the electricity that was enacted on the balancing market, on which hours, and it contains an hourly data. How to use the statistics data, that's the right that everyone can be pursuing. At the same time, I would like to ask my colleagues to send the link to that information on the website. So you need to go to the balancing market and results of the balancing market operations, and we'll provide you with the link to that information based on the results of this today's meeting. Any other questions? Well, we all know there's failures of payments, and we've heard that this should be corrected, but still, In the agreements, there is the penalty payment, the double NBU exchange rate. Is that the case? Is that going to be really paid? There was a lot of debates about this question. There was a regulation, or there was an instruction by the regulator that provided for the non-calculation of the payment. Currently, we do have a Supreme Court ruling says that the regulator had the right to limit the payment of penalties. So as of now, they're not used. But this provision is limited in time, so I can't tell you that it's not going to be used for 5 years. In my understanding, this is enacted for a period of the martial law period. So currently they're not calculating that. Before the decision of the Supreme Court, it was used and it was paid. Later on, after the martial law, to the abolishment of these rules, it will be paid. Can you, well, simulate the situation? Something has happened, and over a period of 5 years, we've stopped providing the services. What's going to happen? Well, in my understanding, these agreements, they contain a force majeure option. Look, the legal framework does not provide for cases like that. Just like, you know, in the marriage registration office. Well, within what period of time will that be accrued? Over a period of 5 years. So until you are bankrupt, right? Well, force majeure, absolutely. This is stipulated in the provisions of the agreement. Well, in this case, the force majeure provisions are applied. I can only compliment that if this is truly a force majeure, you will have, within the terms provided under the agreement, have to notify all the force majeure. Then you need to go to the Chamber of Commerce. They will provide you a certificate. In this case, we'll have no reasons to calculate a penalty. If there are other circumstances that are not force majeure, you just stop providing the services. You decided to reorient to other markets. In this case, we'll have the responsibility, the provisions mentioned in the agreement for the responsibility for stopping to provide the services will be applied. And the same goes to Укренерго. For example, if the shellings was if there was a shelling of a certain unit that was used for you to provide the services, you are relieved for non-performance of your part of the agreement until the situation is resolved. Good afternoon. I have the following question. Did I understood correctly that the service of AFRR and the FCR will be traded by blocks of 4 hours? So there will be 6 4-hour blocks for 5 years on FCR and on AFRR. Well, AFRR, that's per 1 hour per block, and FCR 4 hours per block. Well, let's imagine the auctions were successful and the FCR was, you know, fully traded, all the 99 megawatts. Does that mean that that's it? And over this period of 5 years, you will not have any other auctions due to some changes in technical aspects or something else? Look, the auction is not mentioning that all the 99 megawatts will be constructed, meaning that we will have to wait until the construction is completed and the certification is completed. If everything is successful, then we've fulfilled this need for a period of 5 years.
I would like to say that this amount might be increased. Well, it's a very difficult mechanics and calculations with our colleagues in Europe, but this scope might be increased. There might be an additional need for the scope of this reserve. In this case, we'll run an additional auction. I'm not ready to say if this is going to be an option for 5 years or any other term, but currently the need is 99 megawatts as we've calculated for the auction. 99 megawatts, this is our share of 3,000 European megawatts that is distributed in according to algorithm based on the annual consumption of the parties. If our consumption will increase, surely the share will increase as well. I have the following question. Can you please tell us, like, step by step, how the connection to the grid will look like, and the gas grid, how that would look like? Any specific simplifications that are available? Any documents that, or list of documents that should be provided? And this simplification is enacted only for the period of the martial law, if I'm not wrong. What's going to happen after the martial law? Let me start answering with the second question. Hopefully no one will have an idea to disconnect those units after the victory, because they will be already connected and we can well use them. As for this for simplifications, let me pass the floor to my colleague. He will tell you the regulations that currently enact this provision. As for this simplification, over the past couple of years, a number of regulations were adopted that simplified the possibility of connecting of different type of facilities to the grid in order to create the ancillary reserves. Since you have not mentioned the facility for this simplification, we've simplified the connection for the facilities used to store the energy and many other facilities. We've provided for the possibility to connect them for the suppliers and for the consumers, and there's no technical specifications, and there's a simplified list of documents for doing that. As for the electricity generation, there was a simplification at this point as well, and the consumers and the producers are allowed to connect, and we have this new essence that is an active supplier, meaning any supplier may be entered into market. There's a simplified procedure that's regulation number 352. That's for the simplification of the martial law period. There's different types of simplifications, meaning the unit that will be commissioned before a certain period of time will have one rules, and the other facilities will have the other rules. So if you could specify what sort of type of facilities is to be connected, I will tell you. Okay. In this case, if we're talking about the unit used for storing the electricity, if I am the facility that is generating and consuming the electricity, I can additionally supply ancillary services for Укренерго. If you are the electricity producer, well, let's imagine the situation. You have a solar power plant or wind power plant, and you install the unit for storing the electricity, and the total capacity that you'll be able to offer to the grid, it will be limited for you as a producer. Then you do the certification, you'll be able to provide the service. That's if you are a producer. If you're a consumer, you're transferred to the status of an active consumer. You install this unit for storing the electricity. You conclude all the agreements that allow you to enter to the market. You'll get an active consumer status, and you'll pass the certification. You'll be able to provide the services. So if I will win on the auction this ancillary service in future as an active supplier, I would be able to supply that over the next 5 years. Well, the active consumer, will that be able to participate in the auction? Okay, understood. Good.
Hi, this is Kirilo Lukenchuk from Kilovolt. My question is, we do not have the headset, so please be loud. Let me come up. If we have a battery, for example, in the common, like let's say we have the mall. Yeah, apologize. Yeah, so we have the battery, for example, in a mall or in a factory, and we want to connect it to the grid, and we are in the auxiliary service market. But in winter, so it happened that we have the blackouts. So legally, what happens if we are in the blackout area? So we are just cut from the line. For example, the operator just disconnected us, so we cannot even generate anything. That's a very good question. We'll try and sort it out. I have a very good question for you, another one. If we are the battery and the active consumer, so what we got in and what comes out of us, the operator should net it for us, right? But if there is like a big factory behind the battery, do I understand correctly that there is the situation that it becomes a preference? No. This is provided for. When you connect your battery, the metering would be separate for the battery. So, when the technical requirements are approved, there will be a separate meter, so that sub-consumers would be metered separately. Okay, let me add. If the battery, can it have its own solar generation as a hybrid? Well, anyone can have anything, but merging the battery and the solar panels is only welcomed. Okay, I will not continue. Thank you. And Katarina, this question about the cooperation with the operators and the blackout schedules, the distribution system operators, it should not be stopping us all. This is one of the cases which needs to be resolved for the future. Do I understand correctly that there's no symmetry in the financial liabilities between Ukrenergo and the service provider? So we might have the situation when there are debts in the market and they cannot be paid due to some reasons, and the company which has won the auction will still have to provide this service. So this auction formula, is it also protected by some law? Because things might change tomorrow and it will be like similar to the green tariff. Let me start with the second part. These changes into the market rules, and we as Ukrenergo have been defending them when these auctions were introduced. We wanted to have them as a regulation, following the procedure according to the code, with the regulator and the monopoly committee endorsement. So all the parameters and all the obligations which are set out there, it's part of the regulatory procedure, and they do not contradict the legislation. So according to the law, the regulator has the duty to form the auxiliary service market and the rules of the market. So we follow the logic that, yeah, it's all within the legislation. The first part of your question, it's good, it's constructive. Yes, you are correct. At the moment, the relationship, this mutual financial liabilities are not symmetrical. But I think it makes sense. It would make sense for you, while there is still time before the beginning of the service provision, considering that now there are debts on the balancing market, we must admit it, nobody is hiding it. I think it makes sense to consider and maybe to submit to the committee to have this mutual guarantee. If Ukrenergo is delaying payments from its side, like by more than 2 months, then the service provider might stop providing them, or at least might not get the penalty for non-provision. There are precedents already. As of today, according to Regulation 332, the market participants are not defaulted if they have indebtedness before Укренерго if Укренерgo's debt is higher than the market participants' debt. And perhaps this provision already is covering this market. If it is, then already this is sorted out. If it's not, then maybe it will be improved. It will be improved soon. I will ask my colleagues to also take note of this. And Alexei, please provide the response to Alexander. If this is already resolved under Regulation 332, no, it's not covering the auxiliary services. Okay. Yeah, it's not covering the auxiliary services, but it's covering market participants. So we cannot default the market participant if our indebtedness is higher. In terms of financial guarantees, yeah, the penalties, well, are one thing, but there's also inflation. So the 3% inflation will still be there. It's not even the matter of default. The default is an important thing, but also it's a matter of the business model. Because here, we have investors who think to invest or not to invest. And, well, this 5-year auction, if it's a 4-year capex recovery period, it's actually not that sweet. So that's why there should be some guarantees for the business too. You see, that's why mutual liability is critical, I would say. Because if we will be providing this service, but from your side will not be sent to default, well, it won't work. I can go into the details and explain more. I think Alexander meant that as we will not be defaulting it means that if you have, for example, the generation capacity, it means that you might not provide the service to us. You can just work for the market. You can burn the gas and sell it to the market. But I agree. Like, for me, I see that indeed your proposal is very good. It's just we need to outline it properly. We need to have the clear mechanism of this mutual liability, because formally it's there. Укренерgo, just as other market participants, they should follow the terms of the contract, they should pay, and so on. But if, due to some reasons, Укренерgo doesn't have money, well, we would not have money on the account. So what should happen in this situation so that your investments are protected? Yeah, we need to think about this. My first response is that we should pause the performance of the services. I think it should be sliding into the future. And there should be deposits and liabilities until Укренерго performs, so that your cash flow would be guaranteed and maybe would just be postponed in time. I think we can think about this, and starting tomorrow, I think we'll suggest something for the discussion.
Well, I like where you're going with this thought, and it seems that the conditions of the auction is like, well, you're welcome to join our market. We'll be working in the market because Ukrenergo promised us to have the payment. So you'll be working for the market in any case, and you'll have all the conditions promised by the Ukrenergo. Whenever we are working on the market, there is some sort of funds that are on the escrow account, and there can be some sort of commitments also by Ukrenergo to be placed on the escrow account. Look, we won't be able to pass any regulatory acts within 5 days. That's a fact, and everyone who understands the regulatory procedure adoption clearly knows this. What's important to mention, and over a period of 2.5 years, we, as Ukrenergo, we have attracted over 2.5 billion euro of foreign support in the form of grants, in the form of investments. Currently, we do have agreements with IFIs on providing Ukrenergo with well, grant and loan support money to fully satisfy all the debts on the balancing market of Ukrenergo. Secondly, well, the Ministry of Energy, I think on Thursday or on Friday, they've received the final coordinations from the Ministry of Justice in Ukraine on the draft regulation on the establishment of the protected suppliers. These are the suppliers that are creating issues on the balancing markets or challenges. When this resolution will be adopted, the next one after that would go the regulation on special responsibilities. I don't think there will be any money in the budget, but still. And I don't know who will take those commitments, but still, we've suggested if there won't be anyone else, then Ukrenergo will take those commitments on supplying the electricity to those kind of suppliers, and they will stop causing any issues or any imbalance on the balancing market. So the combination of two things, first of all, the commitment of Ukrenergo under these agreements, when it will be created, well, by that time we'll be able to solve these challenges. But I understanding the skepticism that I responded to the proposal of the previous speaker. I kind of like this this proposal about the two-way approach, but this could be done only in a period of 1.2 or over a period of 1 to 2 months, because we need to have all these procedures in place. We need to have the proposal, the coordination, the approval of the special committee. But on the part of Ukrenergo, I would like to say that we are ready to draft this. We are ready to support this for the coordination by all the other regulators agencies. Good afternoon. I have the following question. Well, everyone knows that Ukraine has lost something around 9 gigawatts of electricity. Now, you are planning to get 1 gigawatt through this auction. And, well, talking about the FSCR, it's understandable. You need to comply with the limits set by the European suppliers. But what about the total capacities? Or is it just a one-time starting project that will show the further trends? Well, NEC Ukrenergo, in accordance to its responsibilities and the market role, ensures the balance of the energy system on the market. We are not providing the electricity to the suppliers. There's the There's other aspects. There's prices that are currently set. The potential investor should not be focusing only on the auctions of the Ukrenergo. For them, it's important to take a look on the prices for a day-ahead market or any other prospects. Well, understanding that the market price in the end of the day is always related to the price of the gas. In some cases, when this threshold is kind of not complied with, the state with a certain delay but still responds to things like that. How it will respond, well, there's multitude of ideas, starting from the very best to the very worst. So we as Укренерго, we kind of can get a proposal so that that will serve as the kind of motivation for others. So nobody else can stop the idea which is due to be implemented. The country needs 3 gigawatts of electricity, and Укренерго won't be able to buy that. And what's important, everything that we are buying is 4 hours, meaning that this electricity won't be coming to the market unless for the balancing of the energy system. For others, like it should be the situation for the community to deal. If the network of supermarkets is not ready to enter the electricity market, they might say and sign any additional agreements. There could be different business cases, and we won't be able to cover all of those cases based on the tariffs only. One more question. Currently the service is regulated by the market rules, so we take commitments if we win the auction, but what would be the guarantees that there could be new market rules or there changes into the rules that will be different from those available at the time of the auction? So how can we be safe that there will be no changes to the rules? There's two answers. First, when we will start the cooperation, you will have to understand that you are becoming part of the energy market of Ukraine. That means that I mean, it could be that you have the energy storage unit on frequency containment reserve, but still you're part of the energy community. So it would be worth taking a look at any initiatives considered by the regulator with regards to any regulatory acts and to respond properly to them. You can say that, like, gentlemen, we won the auction, and currently the market rules were as follows. So you need to say that here are the rules, and if those rules have an effect on your rights and responsibilities, then you have to take actions. There's precedence in 2019 when the ancillary services market was commissioned. We changed the monitoring methodology, and I think one of the market participants managed to replace some of the requirements that were used to do the monitoring, and then regulator simplified the requirements to the quality. And then one of the market participants said, like, look, I've already done the changes, and he was told, look, the conditions were made better. Here there should be a different story. Like, we've signed an agreement, so there should be this rules. This rule should remain in play for 5 years. Second thing that I have to say on the part of Ukrenergo, we're not going to initiate anything on our part. So The requirements to the reserve, they comply with the European one, and there's no preconditions to change those rules. I don't see that. A small comment, what Andrii has mentioned, that comply with the European, but if you take a look at the European system operators, they're currently debating on limiting the energy storage scope in FCR, and currently there is no decision made. It's currently being debated among the system operators. But if there will be commitments by Укренерго submitted in the agreement that will not change, maybe after 5 years we can start a new story, we can start a new agreement, but not before that.
And one more thing to add to Vitaly's. This is our share in this general 3 gigawatts. If we'll need 97, it doesn't mean that we'll stop owing to you for your 2 megawatts. So these contracts, this reserve will still be paid for until our contract runs out. Andrii Yaroshenko from Ranger Development. When we talk about connecting, you said there is the simplified procedure for the battery. I think regulation 352, the temporary procedure, but as far as I read it, it doesn't say that a battery can be connected using the simplified procedure. For the manufacturers, yes, it should have 4-fold capacity reserve, but I don't know if there's a simplified procedure for the battery. Well, for the battery, the simplification was more global. We've allowed building the batteries on any land plot, regardless of its functional capacity. It says that, well, the energy storage unit can be stored there. And it's mentioned both in the law and in this temporary procedure. There is a separate item that for the construction of the energy storage unit, there is the simplified connection procedure without paying to the substation. So it's not in terms of procedure, but there's simplification in the possibility to build and the payment. Colleagues, I would like to say thanks. We need to finish here, but I invite you all to the terrace for the reception. And once again, these colleagues next to me are, I think, covering almost all the main activities of Ukrenergo's operation. So if you have any more questions, let's discuss this on the terrace up there in a more relaxed environment. Thank you, and thank you for coming to this event.
Он вас спас. Я хотела передать вопрос кошарный, она уходила.